Welcome back to Kemper Arena in Kansas City. The other semifinal in the Midwest Regional. Two teams with NCAA championship tradition. University of Texas El Paso Miners, 1966 national champs, against the Cincinnati Bearcats, two-time champions in the early 60s, back in the limelight again. And the winner here will take on Memphis State for the right to go to the Final Four next week in Minneapolis. UTEP with the stunning victory of this tournament thus far, shocking #1 seed Kansas last week in Dayton. Cincinnati beat Michigan State, avenging an earlier defeat during the year, and they clash head-on. If you like defensive basketball, that's the name of this game, and I can see the smile on Al McGuire's face. He is rubbing his hands in anticipation. A defensive game, but how are they going to play it, Al?
Cincinnati will have 94 feet of bad traps. They'll constantly keep the pressure on you. Their offense is truly their defense. They look to turn you over or score off missed shots off the backboard. Now, UTEP, they set up a half-court defense. They don't gamble. All they want to do is wear you out. They play in front of you and eat up the clock.
We have two coaches. Contrast, 37-year-old Bob Huggins in Cincinnati, 62-year-old Don Haskins. First, Huggins.
Huggins, he's Coach Fierce. He's young, he's tough, he gives no excuses, and he accepts no excuses.
And Don Haskins, the Bear.
If you don't play hard for the Bear, you don't play. Welcome, gang, to basketball from the early 70s.
And it's going to be a refreshing chess game indeed. The starting lineups for UTEP: Marlon Maxey, Johnny Melvin, and Dick Van Dyke up front. Eddie Rivera and Prince Stewart are the guards. For Cincinnati, Herb Jones and Terry Nelson are the forwards. Corey Blunt the center. Anthony Buford and Nick Van Exel are the guards. The officials working the second game of this Midwest Regional semifinal: Jody Sylvester from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, Frank Scagliotta of Penn Argyle, Pennsylvania, and Rusty Herring out of Durham, North Carolina. Back in 1966, UTEP defeated Cincinnati in overtime en route to winning their national title. They beat JoJo White in Kansas in their next game and then defeated Kentucky. And it was a famous game because UTEP used their top 7 players. It was an all-black team going against an all-white Kentucky Wildcat team of Adolph Rupp with Pat Riley as the star of Kentucky. And he doesn't wear that clip-on tie long, does he?
Not too long. And when it's a big game, he takes it off even before it starts.
That 66 championship game was really a milestone, wasn't it, Al?
Yeah, that was at the Maryland Fieldhouse. And Kentucky was an outstanding ball club. At that time, Pat Riley, the New York Knickerbocker coach, was one of their stars.
UTEP is in orange and Cincinnati in white. The Bearcats are 27-4 coming in. UTEP is 27 wins and 6 losses.
Texas of El Paso must be able to handle Cincinnati's pressure the first 6 minutes of the game. It's very important, Dick.
Yeah, they're not a good team coming back from behind, will they be?
No. Cincinnati tries to knock you out early, and that was an obvious push right there by Prince Stewart.
Anthony Buford is fouled. He's a senior from Flint, Michigan, and the leading free throw shooter on the Bearcats. And the fair foul was on Prince Stewart.
There's a mismatch underneath. The guards for El Paso are so small, if you take them down low, you can eat peanuts off their head.
Shelled or not shelled, doesn't matter. Buford misses the free throw, and you're right about the height. Stewart is 5'11". Eddie Rivera, the other guard, is 5'8". Buford is at 6'3".
Eddie Rivera, if he's 5'8", I'm a seashell. If he's over 5'5", I'll take you for a trip to Tibet.
Seashells and balloons, huh? One of your...
Well, here comes the pressure. They got to be able to handle it the first 6 minutes of the game. There's the trap.
Here is Johnny Melvin. Missing is David Van Dyke. And the rebound by Corey Blunt. Here is Herb Jones. This is a 3. And the rebound by Buford. Anthony Buford. Cincinnati's height advantage evident in the opening minutes.
Trying to turn it over. They're like piranhas after dead meat in the Amazon.
Where are you getting Tibet in the Amazon from, Al?
There's the turnover. You got to be able to handle it.
You've covered every continent in the world, for crying out loud, and we haven't played 2 minutes.
That's the way they are. They look for a run. They smell blood, and they try to knock you out. That's why I said earlier, you got to handle him the first 6 or 7 minutes.
What are you reading National Geographic here during the timeouts? They get it in low to Jones. Nelson gets it out to Van Exel. He is the playmaker.
Since Van Exel has started, they're 17-1. Got a starting job early in January.
Big move for Bob Huggins off the bench. Came at the right time. Looking to get it low to Corey Blunt. And here is Blunt, the junior from Monrovia, California, and a late bloomer. And he gives the Bearcats a 5-0 lead.
Just flew right over Van Dyke that time.
Here's the trap on Rivera. Nearly turned over, but Melvin kept it in bounds. Inside to Marlon Maxey.
See, the trouble that UTEP has is their guards are small and they get trapped. They can't see the court.
There's Buford. Blunt posting up against David Van Dyke. Keeps it alive, and a three-point shot by Buford is good. He leads the team with three-point shooting, and it's 8 points run off by the Bearcats to start the game.
Miners need a score, have to go off the drought.
And Texas El Paso is shell-shocked in the first 2.5 minutes of this game. You said the first minutes, UTEP had to hang in there or lead. And traveling called against Herb Jones.
Now they need more than anything else is to get on the board, what you call off the snide.
Now, how do they do that? Because it's tough to bring it up to midcourt. Where do they go with it?
I'd open up, leave it, get everybody away, and let this kid take it by himself. Go solo.
You mean Eddie Rivera, 5'8".
Eddie would just take it by himself.
Throws it away into the hands of Buford. Buford to Jones. Herb Jones, the leading scorer for Cincinnati, gives them a 10-0 lead.
You can't wait for the timeout. They're waiting too long for the commercial timeout.
Marlon Maxey, and a foul against Cincinnati Bearcats. And that foul will be against Terry Nelson, his first. And a chance for UTEP to finally get on the board with 3 minutes going by.
Marlon Maxey at the line, shooting 2.
So Marlon Maxey, who is the best free throw shooter for UTEP, transfer from Minnesota, has had knee problems throughout his career. In fact, had surgery earlier this year, has a brace or a wrapping on his left knee, and UTEP finally scores.
Plus his shoes are eating up the socks. Show those socks. It's just about coming.
You can't see the socks, Al. You know, if those shorts get longer and those shoes come up higher, you won't even see his legs. And UTEP with 2 free throws, and timeout is called. Look at them. He must like them. And the regional finals, first in the West, Indiana versus UCLA, and then in the East, Kentucky versus Duke. 1 against 2 in the seeds. You won't have that story here. 1, 2, and 3 have been knocked out. Jim Bice, the guard, has replaced Johnny Melvin, a forward, so it's a small team with 3 guards in there for UTEP.
Jones are trying to post up against Bice.
Bice is 6 feet, and Jones is 6'4".
I don't think Bice is 6, but boy, he's fighting him inside. Jones should go over him just like that.
Shot is blocked by David Van Dyke, but getting it back is Herb Jones. Here is Buford for a 2, air ball, but inside they convert. Was that Herb Jones?
Yeah, he just blew Bice away that time with his shoulder. Could have been called a charging foul.
12-2. So they went smaller after Cincinnati used height to their advantage early on, but Don Haskins knows his team. And an offensive foul called against Jim Bice.
Watch Jones blow Bice out of here. This is Jim Bice, G-Y-M. Now watch him blow him out with his shoulder. See that? Away he goes in an automatic inside position.
His name is James Bice, but he spends a lot of time. He's a gym rat, so he spelled it, I think legally now, Jim, G-Y-M, like you said. Buford tried to get the ball inside to Herb Jones.
A little bit too much hand by Bice that time. That's B-I-C-E. He's trying to come around the outside. Watch, he's trying to come around the outside. He's too big for him. Too much hands on him. He needs help from the weak side. Van Dyke did come over from the weak side.
Second foul on Bice, and so that experiment goes by the boards, and Johnny Melvin comes back in for the Miners. Don Haskins experimenting early, trailing by 10 points, 12-2, and a jump shot hit by Terry Nelson. He's a good defender. He's averaging under 4 a game, but he hits the shot to make it 14-2. Biggest lead for Cincinnati.
It takes it off pass rush to realize that Cincinnati will not pull up. They'll keep this pressure on from wire to wire.
And finally, they get David Van Dyke, who beats the pressure. Van Dyke, the best shooter on this team, and a senior from Mesa, Arizona. And the first field goal for the Miners.
So many of his goals are within a foot of the basket. That's why he has such a high shooting percentage. Those two baseline men for the Miners should spread out more in that baseline.
Cincinnati won the Great Midwest Conference Tournament, beating Memphis State, a team they beat 3 times. Memphis State won the earlier game against Georgia Tech. Van Exel, guarded by Rivera, fires up a 3. Jones gets the offensive rebound, scores, and the foul
is a charge
the other way. The basket will count, and the charge against Herb Jones. It'll be his first personal.
The basket counts because he released the ball before he made contact with the defensive man. So the basket counts, then he charged, so there's a personal foul on them. Now watch it. There's Jones, go up and get the rebound. Now he's up in the air, releases, and then he charges into the defensive man who held his ground.
Ralph Davis, a sophomore from Chicago, has come in to replace Marlon Maxey for UTEP, and the feed inside of Van Dyke. Getting the rebound was Johnny Melvin, but it's turned over by UTEP, and the first substitution of the game for Cincinnati is Terrence Gibson from Dothan, Alabama, who's a defensive spark off the bench. That's the last thing Cincinnati needs now, is more defense.
They're all defensive sparks.
Eric Martin, a 6'5 junior, who had 8 rebounds against Michigan State. He's in the game for the Bearcats. And a bad pass, careless. Prince Stewart was able to get the ball back, and a foul called against Buford of Cincinnati.
Anthony reached in that time, kind of a foolish foul.
Alprentice Stewart, they call him Prince. He's a senior from Lexington, Kentucky, and he was a high school junior when he heard how Texas Western beat Kentucky, and he decided, I want to go to that school in El Paso.
One of his biggest assets, he penetrates and kicks out.
Johnny Melvin works his way in and draws the foul. Good move by Johnny Smooth, as they call him. Boy, Larry Finch is a man of many occupations.
Well, he's not only scouting, he's doing his radio show while he's scouting. Double bubble.
And when you lose, as Bobby Cremens does, you also have to get a side job, right? Here is Johnny Melvin. Melvin hit 6 out of 8 free throws against Kansas.
Dick, the score was 16-4. What's going to happen? I think El Paso is going to get back into this game because I think they're solving a little bit the pressure up court by spreading their baseline men.
10-point lead for Cincinnati. Cincinnati Bearcats, the highest seed of the 4 teams remaining in the Midwest Regional, are leading 16-6. Anthony Buford has just hit a 3. That's his second of the ball game, and now a 13-point lead for the Bearcats.
Full court pressure by the Bearcats, or bear trap, whatever you want to call them.
And Ralph Davis follows it in. It's been a defensive game dominated by the team with the ball.
Yep, Prince Stewart that time, what he likes to do, he penetrated and kicked off. But the Bearcats are not allowing the UTEP club to get into sync where they're eating up the clock, take them down in the half-court offense.
Herb Jones The Bearcats' leading scorer has replaced Anthony Buford in the lineup, so it's Gibson and Van Exel in the backcourt. Up front, it's Martin, Jones, and the center is Clark with the ball. Nearly a steal. And Herb Jones, and they said it was tied up, and so the possession hour will favor the Miners. Right now in this game, Cincinnati has 5 offensive rebounds, and the Miners haven't gotten one yet.
The Miners got to make the shot the first time, or it's tapioca. Now here comes the trap, trying to trap the small guard so they can't see over it.
Brent Stewart breaks it, and they get it inside to Johnny Melvin.
That's what I said earlier. Why I think that UTEP is going to get back into this ball game is that finally their baseline men are spreading down below, which gives the option. See the baseline men down below? They're spreading now. When the penetration comes here, watch Prince penetrate. Now he'll kick. Fake to the left, kick to the right. Could be a possible three-point play.
Corey Blunt committed the foul, and a substitution for the Bearcats. Jeff Scott, a 6'10 senior. He's from Cincinnati, who suffered a sprained ankle in the first game of this tournament, but came back to play 18 minutes against Michigan State, and now the lead has been cut to 8. It was 13.
And these small guards will start bothering the bigger guards on Cincinnati because they start playing their kneecaps. And that's no joke. They really get so low that you can't get into rhythm. Now, the only thing you can do against small guards is take them down low in the blocks and score over them. But if you go down low in the blocks, that means your big men got to go up to the top of the key.
That foul was on Johnny Melvin, his first foul, team foul. Cincinnati has 5 and UTEP 4. Here is Terrence Gibson. Misses the 3, the rebound by Van Dyke, and they're going to call Scott with the fouls. So that is the 16th foul against Cincinnati. The next one will be the bonus situation for UTEP.
Scott doesn't look like he plays physical with that body, but he does play physical. He's bigger than you think.
6'10", and he's a good offensive rebounder. And there you see Cincinnati with an 8-1 edge off the boards thus far.
Notice that UTEP will not get into the bowling alley lanes on either side of the court because the trap comes right there. Keep the ball in the middle of the court. Nice kick. Take it around the horn.
Eddie Rivera in the paint. In and out, tipped in and missed. That time by Ralph Davis. Here's Gibson.
Now you got to remember, watching this basketball game, you got to rethink your way of looking at basketball. This is a defensive game on both ends.
Van Exel with a great feed, baseline to Eric Martin with his first basket.
This game will be decided by defense, not offense. Both teams, their defense is their offense.
You said UTEP couldn't fall behind early, and they have been behind early out.
Yes, that's one of the things that's going to hurt them, but I feel they solved the pressure underneath, which is going to give them a lot of chippies underneath. Man-to-man by the Bearcats.
Johnny Melvin inside to Stewart. Stewart baseline over Van Exel. I don't know how he got that shot over the taller guard.
All you got to do for Don Haskins, all you got to do is play hard. And he'll keep you in the game. He's been around a long time. He's the Pete Carrill of the Rio Grande. He's the Princeton basketball of the Rio Grande.
31 years as a head coach.
If he was on the other side of the Mississippi, he'd be in the Hall of Fame.
You're going in, and he should go in too.
Right, he's unbelievable. 31 years of just a great person.
Martin goes up, and a 3-second violation called. Turns it over back to UTEP. So the lead is 8. Don Haskins has something up his sleeve. It's not as high. Feed inside, and they couldn't score enough for Johnny Melvin, but there's the rebound by Van Dyke.
That was a cuff dunk.
Van Dyke, the second leading scorer at 14 a game, brings UTEP to within 6. They're pecking away slowly.
Kind of caught their breath. It was a great timeout that Don Haskins called. Commercial timeout to him with 16 minutes. He didn't wait. He called his timeout with 17 minutes to go in the first half.
And it's turned over by Herb Jones. Brent Stewart. And UTEP can whittle the deficit some more.
What UTEP tries to do is wear your legs out. They'll penetrate, kick out, work the clock, look to take off 30 seconds.
Eddie Rivera with a runner. A beautiful play by Eddie Rivera from the Bronx in New York. And UTEP is on an 11-2 run now.
Difficult shot he just made, going at the basket, playing all rim. That's difficult.
Cincinnati scored the first 10 points of the game, and Herb Jones, with a high wire act, now has 8 points. Second to Buford's 9. And we'll have, coming up from the bench, Marlon Maxey will check in for UTEP. First of all, for Cincinnati, Anthony Buford. Oh, that was Terry Nelson. So right now it's Buford, Nelson, Scott, Alan Jackson, and Herb Jones for Cincinnati on defense.
They're in a 1-3-1 now, playing man-to-man on the ball on the perimeter.
Johnny Melvin with the ball.
I don't think this is smart at this time because it's letting El Paso set into the rhythm they want. Watch how patient they are. They'll back it up, call something out, run it. If they don't get it chippy, they'll reset again.
They went into the 4 corners against Kansas, and it worked. Shocked the Jayhawks, the #1 seed, the only one not to advance to the Final 8.
They're in the 4 corners now. The clock's down to 6. Going up.
Here's Prince Stewart. He hits a 3. And Cincinnati, at one time leading 10-0, and then a 13-point lead, has their margin down to a trio.
And again, give the Bear credit for that timeout.
Think he's seen and coached enough games?
Oh.
Seen everything.
In the zone now.
UTEP has tightened the screws on their defense a little bit since the early going.
What UTEP is looking for, the score off the rebound.
Herb Jones got tied up, but the possession
down.
arrow stays in Cincinnati's favor. You're right. Bearcats have won 8 in a row. UTEP has won 9 out of their last 10, so both of these teams are hot coming into this game. Alan Jackson, he was the starting point guard before Van Exel took over, and they went on that 16-1 run this year.
They got to get on Buford. Buford's 3 in the side. Too late.
There's the 3. You got it. They let him free, and the third 3-point basket for Anthony Buford. And it's a 6-point game, Cincinnati.
In any game of basketball, when someone's hot, you got to get on them.
Al Prince Stewart.
Too many steps.
And a turnover, Alprentice Stewart. And UTEP turns it over with 8 minutes remaining. Don Haskins. What a legacy they have in the backcourt. Tiny Archibald, Tim Hardaway, the late Chief Jackson, Bobby Joe Hill.
Bobby Joe Hill was outstanding. He was the guard on the team that won in 1966. There's the turnover.
And a steal by Prince Stewart. Tried to throw the pass through a lot of redwood trees, and Cincinnati winds up with it. Buford in the paint. Beautiful pass to Herb Jones, and that's what UTEP can't do and let Cincinnati get out on the open floor.
One thing that they have to do, UTEP, they've got to get Marlon Maxey into the game. He disappears some games. He hasn't been in this game yet.
He scored just 2 points, and he came in as their leading point maker at 15 a game.
Well, I don't mean so much the scoring, but the more physicalness and the rebound and the touching the ball, playing good D. It's a matchup zone.
Here's Stewart. And the rebound by Terry Nelson. Cincinnati had their lead cut to 3. Now they're up by 8, threatening to add to it now. Scott. And it's blocked inside. It was blocked by Marlon Maxey, and on the fast break, the basket counts, and a foul by Smooth Johnny Melvin.
Mr. Smooth finalized on that, but watch Prince. Watch how Prince brings the defense to him. Here's Scott going up, gets his all leather. Now here comes Prince down. Now watch how he keeps penetrating, keeps his dribble alive, then sees the opening, kicks inside. Can end up with a trifecta on this.
Second foul on Nelson, so Nelson and Blunt each with 2. And for UTEP, Roy Howard makes his first appearance, giving David Van Dyke a breather. Howard is a junior from Houston, played extremely well against Kansas in round 2.
No pressure up court by the Miners. They will pick you up at half court right now and play you square. They are back in the zone again, but they'll play individually on the ball. Rivera comes out on Jackson.
Yeah, Howard is all over Nelson. Here's Scott. Nearly interference on top of the rim. Nothing called, but UTEP down by 6. Nearly 6 minutes to go in the half. And here is Stewart again, trying for another 3.
You step in front of him, you call with a charge here.
And Herb Jones goes in, and his foul. It'll be against UTEP. And for the Miners, only their 5th team foul.
Eddie Rivera.
A lot of reserves coming into the game. Jim Bice and Ralph Davis will come in for UTEP. There's Davis, who's been the top scorer off the bench for the Miners. Nick Van Axel has come in for Cincinnati.
Cincinnati has to keep moving them, Dick, because this pressure up court does wear them down. And Coach Don Hassan is trying to save his team for the second half, not slip too far down in the first half.
Eric Martin came in with Van Exel for the Bearcats. Herb Jones is not a good free throw shooter most of the year, but the last 10 games has shot over 75%. Timeout. Ray, Jim.
All right, thank you, Dick. I'm sitting here with Larry Finch, the head coach of Memphis State. They won in overtime in the game earlier here. Now, your team has played Cincinnati 3 times this year and lost all 3 times. Would you like another shot?
Unfortunately, we have, but I tell you what, though, that this is the new days, and we'll have the opportunity, hopefully, again, to win a ball game.
Larry, how do you see this game finishing up? UTEP has really hung in there.
Well, I tell you what, this game's not over yet. UTEP playing good basketball, and of course, Cincinnati jumped out to a 10-point lead, and they're right back in this thing. They hit another basket. It could be a close game.
Larry, we'll see you on Sunday. Okay, let's go back to Dick.
All right, Jim. I know if I were a coach, I'd rather try my luck with UTEP. You know, I'm 0-3. Let's try the other team out.
Well, I think UTEP has kind of solved the pressure problem by Cincinnati.
Jim Bice hits the 3. Bice is 44% from three-point range. That's the best on the team.
He's known in the WAC as a zone buster.
Son of a former coach, as you would expect.
Out of Amby, Texas, I believe.
Yep. Van Exel and Scott, Buford, Jones, and Eric Martin are the 5 in there for the Bearcats in white. Under 5 minutes to play in the half. Buford with a high arcing shot. Jones gets the rebound on the weak side, and it's going to be a held ball, and it'll go over to UTEP on the possession arrow.
Now watch for Cincinnati. They seem to have lost a little bit of their spark on their pressure up court. I think the small guards are starting to wear them out, and they're mainly being worn out on the defensive end because each time down, the Miners hold the ball for about 30 seconds and make you play hard defense.
That'll be an offensive foul against Prince Stewart, and that'll be his 2nd foul.
Oh, I would give a nice pat in the back to Herb Jones that time. I might give him my Macbeth Award. He could not. This guy couldn't knock this guy back that far. If he had yeah, but he couldn't knock him back that far. It's about 80 pounds going against 220 pounds.
He saw John Barry on the floor. He says, "Let me try sliding on the hardwood." He took a charge.
David Buford outside the zone.
Herb Jones gets inside to Martin. Good defense interior for UTEP, but the Bearcats come out with the ball with 4:23 to play in the half. 5-point lead for Cincinnati. Van Exel with a fake to Scott. Good play. Well executed offense on the half court.
Good spacing against the zone. Outstanding ball handling.
Sailed by Buford. Jim Bice ran right into Buford, and it's out of bounds. Still Cincinnati ball.
One thing you can't do against Cincinnati is turn your back. Soon, watch when he turns his back here, and there he is. That's all she wrote.
Got to keep your eyes open. second chance points and the rebounds go hand in hand. Cincinnati has a big edge there. Both teams shooting well, but Anthony Buford, going in as the second leading scorer for Cincinnati, has a hot night so far, 4 for 6.
As I said earlier, Cincinnati's offense is turnovers and putbacks. That's how they score. So their offense is their defense, which creates the turnover, and then the inside positional missed shots.
Scott's played a lot here in the first half. Out of bounds, turned over to UTEP. We'll check to see who's in for UTEP. They've got David Van Dyke, who will inbound the ball. Ralph Davis, who started the game off the bench. Eddie Rivera and Prince Stewart and Marlon Maxey. Where the small guards have trouble looking over the defense. They beat it, though. And a nifty turnaround by Ralph Davis.
Bob Huggins got to put a new wrinkle in this full court pressure. They've solved that. All you got to do is adjust. Maybe start at that half court or three-quarters court.
Cincinnati scored the first 10 points of the game. They led by 13. UTEP cut it to 3. And off the glass, Nick Van Exel.
Oh, boy, that one shouldn't count, Nick. That's the kid from Kenosha. Went to St. Joseph High School. That's Kenosha, Wisconsin.
And his first points of the game, a 3 off the glass. Lead is 8.
Nice wraparound pass.
Baseline shot by Van Dyke. He's got some good range from 8 to 10 feet.
Could use a little weight. He could eat some bananas. He looks like he's under 200 pounds.
Marlon Maxey is 250. He's the only minor with any kind of beef on the squad, it seems.
Did you say beef?
Yeah, I said it.
2-3 zone.
Van Exel trying for another 3, and he hits it. This one's legitimate.
That's legit. You can take credit for that.
2
Nick,
threes.
You deserve that one.
And it's 38 to 29. Cincinnati is at 5 out of 9 from three-point range. It's above 50%. Davis. Rebound, Marlon Maxey. Sneaker on the floor. And it's going to be Ralph Davis's. He steps into it like it's a pair of bedroom slippers.
He's not making production out of it either.
Herb Jones, foul before the shot. It is a foul before the shot. Let's get that heel in the shoe and we're okay. All right, road to the Final Four comes your way tomorrow at 4 o'clock Eastern time. And then the regional finals. In the West, Indiana against UCLA. Number 1 UCLA against 2 Indiana. And then the East Regional Final, number 1 Duke against 2 Kentucky. Ohio State, the number 1 in the Southeast, has advanced with a victory tonight over North Carolina. And the only region where you won't get a number 1 will be the one right here.
Best you can get is a number 4, which is Cincinnati. There's a possibility if Cincinnati wins this game, which is a long way, that you would have the finals out here between 2 teams from the Great Midwest Conference. And this is the first year of the Great Midwest Conference being there. And there's my man walking into a sneaker. Don't put down, just nice and easy. Take your time. This much. It's only the Sweet 16.
Get him his robe and his slippers. Terrence Gibson, backup guard, has come into the game for Cincinnati, giving Herb Jones a breather.
And Gibson comes in looking for a quick turnover with fresh blood in there.
Jones goes out with 14 points. He's the top scorer for the Bearcats. He has scored 8 in the last 10 minutes of this first half. Out of bounds, Miners still control.
The soft spot in Cincinnati's pressure is under the basket on both sides. The more you look down there and split those men, the sooner you'll be in the ball game.
Every time UTEP has narrowed the margin, Cincinnati has had an answer in this game. Marlon Maxey.
He put up a brick, but he fouled up on it, kept it alive.
And Davis misses. It'll be Prince Stewart keeping it alive and a new clock for UTEP. Whistle.
Too much Nelson, too much hands. He got his MJ haircut there. He's saying, not me.
That's Nelson's 3rd personal foul. Terry Nelson, who is the best post defender, not much of an offensive threat for Cincinnati, but he's got 3.
Do I have to explain MJ?
Let's see. Michael Jordan. Is that the guy you had in mind? David Van Dyke, 70% free throw shooter. Hits the front end. He holds all the school shot blocking records. Here's Eric Martin replacing Nelson, who sits down with 3.
David Van Dyke has good hands. He can score inside. And he's a finesse player. He's not a power player. You can tell by the size of him.
Ron Haskins says, you know, he could make it in the NBA because he can go out on the floor. I think it's a good testimony to him.
He'd have to get some weight on because they'd blow him into the bleachers.
Just quoting Haskins, you know. But you're right.
You don't play in the NBA unless you're physically strong. Good temper of steel that time. Very rarely does Texas of El Paso turn the ball over on steals. They play you face up, man to man, belly button to belly button, looking to wear you out and take advantage of you more in the second half.
Alan Jackson is in, and Terrence Gibson to the bench for Cincinnati. Bearcats national champions in 61 and 62, and almost won 3 in a row. They almost became the first team to capture 3 straight. Lost to Loyola in overtime. Buford, who has 3 3-point baskets, throws up an air ball. Under a minute to go, and the lead is 9 for the Bearcats. UTEP trying to narrow it a little bit before halftime and traveling.
That would put another year on the Bears' life.
He already has 62 of them. Davis traveled.
Yeah, another gray hair. Doesn't say anything, but he's talking to himself inside, believe me.
We have a differential of a little over 4 seconds on the 2 clocks.
I think they'll take it pretty much down.
Yeah.
They'd be happy to go in a 9-point lead and maybe add some sweet gravy on right now.
And that was Van Dyke. And that is the 8th team foul, so it'll be 1 and 1 on the line for Cincinnati. So they could open up a lead of more than 10. Start of this game was all Bearcats, 10-zip. They were up at one point by 13, and then UTEP went to work. They cut it down to 3 points, and then Cincinnati got its second win.
UTEP, Roy Howard.
Johnny Melvin has reported back into the game with Roy Howard. In the Southeast region in Lexington, Ohio State defeated North Carolina, so the #1 seed advances in the 3rd region, and Michigan is playing Oklahoma State. They'll play Sunday. And Oklahoma State the #2.
If Oklahoma State wins, that means the other 3 regions is 1 and 2. So the committee has really put it together. They went to sleep on our region out here in the Midwest. The best you can come out of here is with a #4.
Bob Huggins, Bearcats. And he is telling his players, Scott in particular picks up his second foul, to be a little more awake.
Well, he's into the game. He's an excellent coach. He's a graduate of West Virginia. He's 2-time academic All-American.
Here's Marlon Maxey. He's shooting 1 and 1. Maxey came in as the leading scorer for UTEP at 15 a game, and right now has 3 points and no field goals and no socks.
And no socks, especially on that right foot.
32.4 seconds remain in the first half. The lead is 7.
Probably settling the zone here. Nope. Coming out, playing man-to-man.
Alan Jackson from South Bend, Indiana. Junior college transfer. Just about all of them are on this team. They got 8 of them, plus 2 transfers.
See the tapping on the top of the head by Nick. That's calling a set play down below.
Van Exel gets around a screen and hits the jumper. 6 seconds to go. He calls. He says, "I'm taking this all the way."
If he taps his head, there's plenty of time here.
John Melvin dumps it in. Marlon Maxey at the buzzer. The basket will count. And Maxey came alive. Where has he been now?
Well, he was asleep most of the game, but he ended up making the big foul shots. Here's the charge he got away with, and here's a tomahawk dunk.
Ooh!
That's a cage rattler.
And that's the end of the first half with the score. Cincinnati 42 and UTEP 35. And CBS Sports exclusive coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship will continue after this message and a word from your local station. UTEP got within 3 points. It's been all Cincinnati, and UTEP has never had the lead in this game. Second chance points. Big for Cincinnati. the second rebound, converting it into points. Shooting-wise, both teams are 50% or better. 3-point shooting, 5 for 9. That's a big edge for Cincinnati there. Van Dyke with 8 and Jones with 14, the high scorers. Al?
Well, one of the things that surprises me is that UTEP has 9 turnovers, but the Bearcats have 8.
You'd expect it to be a lot more with the kind of defense.
It looked like a lot more, Dick, in watching the game.
Corey Blunt gets the first points of the second half. He only had 2 in the first half and picked up 2 fouls and didn't play much. Eddie Rivera, number 11. Stewart, number 13, and out of bounds off of Maxey's hands. Right now, let's go to Jim Gray. Jim?
Well, Dick, at halftime, Cincinnati head coach Bob Huggins really gave his team a tongue lashing. He's upset that the UTEP guards have been able to penetrate so often and so much. He told his club that this should be a blowout, and he's upset that they're even still in the game. Now, these teams are used to his tongue lashings because he does it quite often, and he's not a real calm guy in the clubhouse. Dick?
All right, I don't think he's calm anytime, Al.
Oh, he's Coach Fierce. He stays with the game. He's a hard worker. His father was a high school coach. And as a matter of fact, him and his 2 brothers played for his father in high school.
You talked to his dad yesterday. He was at Akron, of course, before coming to Cincinnati.
Yes, and I asked him what is the key to the pressure on Cincinnati. He says the key to the pressure on Cincinnati is the second trap, not the first trap. Here's the first trap. Here comes the second trap.
And a kick ball. By the way, that foul was on Blunt, his 3rd personal. So the Bearcats have their starting center in foul trouble. Inbounding will be Van Dyke, Prince Stewart, Eddie Rivera in the backcourt, Marlon Maxey and Johnny Melvin up court.
Another foul on Buford that time. Once you allow these small guards to get an alley, they're like a PT boat. They get an alley and get into the middle of that court, they'll blow by you.
In the water. Second foul on Buford. They're going to let Rivera bring it up. And of course, Cincinnati's half-court defense is nothing to be calm about either. It's pretty.
They play solid, but I think what's happened, I think that the Miners have taken the sting out of the legs. It looks like the Bearcats' legs aren't as fresh as they should be.
Prince Stewart working around Buford, trying to throw him into another foul. Comes up empty. The rebound by Blunt. And we'll have a UTEP foul, and it'll be against Marlon Maxey, and that will be his first personal.
Marlon Maxey got into the game at the end of the first half, but outside of that, he's kind of been disappearing in and out.
Jim Bice has replaced Prince Stewart. And there is Jeff Scott. Jeff Scott played a lot of minutes in the first half, and a technical foul has been called. Has it been called on Haskins?
I don't know.
That Big Bear?
I didn't see what the T was for. I don't know if the Bear spoke to someone or stepped outside the box. Boy, we're teeing up everybody. I still feel that when you call a technical on the coach, that the 3 referees should meet at half court, talk about it for 8 seconds or 9 seconds or 10 seconds, say I warned the guy, then go back and call the T. But don't be calling T's emotionally.
Yeah, because they're made emotionally, and so the officials should maybe, you know, bring it down a little bit, the fever, before they rule on it.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the refs are wrong or the coach is wrong. All I'm saying, I think it'd be a better formula. I had the thing last year with Dean Smith was put out of the semifinals, and this year with John McLeod at Notre Dame against DePaul, and only yesterday the coach at the University of Mass.
Calipari, yep. That was a key point of that game when UMass had cut it to 2. Van Exel, long rebound, picked up by Eddie Rivera. Here's one of the few fast breaks by UTEP, and that was Johnny Melvin with the basket. He now has 9 points, and we understand now that the technical foul was not on Don Haskins, but Prince Stewart.
Yeah, I doubted because I didn't see him step out of the box, and I didn't see him mouth off.
Working against Jim Bice is Buford, and Bice is called for the foul. That'll be his 3rd personal, and coach's son at 6 foot. He's a hustler out there, but he's in big company.
Now, you take on Buford, you're taking on a pro. He's a 5th-year man. He's out of Akron, the Zip. He originally was recruited and played for Bob Huggins at Akron.
Illegal screen against the Bearcats, and they're going to nail Jones with that. Herb Jones. He has 14 points, the leading scorer for Cincinnati. Buford with 12 and Van Exel 10. So the backcourt has scored well for Cincinnati. No one is in double figures yet for UTEP.
So the audience understands the nickname for the Akron is the Zips.
Zips, right. You weren't saying zip it up or anything like that. Maxey nowhere to go with it. Rivera, who played in the shadow of Kenny Anderson and Adrian Autry in New York City basketball. 5'8", you're not going to get a lot of lookers.
He ended up going to 2 junior colleges before, or 2 or 3 before coming on to the minors.
Fight for the rebound, and they go the other way on a Texas El Paso foul, as Van Dyke couldn't get it on Mark, and the foul is against Marlon Maxey. That'll be his second of the game. Dick Stockton and Al McGuire, Don Haskins, who doesn't like to watch things like free throws toward the end of the game, and hopefully for him, his team will be close enough to be within striking reach at the end.
Don't let them put you to sleep. UTEP likes an ugly game, and this is turning into an ugly game.
Buford missed, and it's tipped up and in. I think that may be Eric Martin. And it is Martin with the tip-in. Lead is 11 now for Cincinnati. Their biggest margin was 13 early on.
They're not the same team when Prince isn't in there. That's Prince Stewart.
Eddie Rivera inside the basket, good by Marlon Maxey, and he draws the foul as well. So that helps bring him back. Maxey now with 8 points. Melvin leads with 9. Van Dyke also 8.
Every time they're in blowout city, the Miners come back with a big basket.
And every time they come back and get close, Cincinnati opens it up again. And there is Prince Stewart checking back into the game.
Watch this pass here. Draws them up, then kicks to the weak side. Maxey's on the inside. If you can finalize this, he brings them back 3 points, and the spread will be an even 10. No, it will be an even 8.
Eric Martin, at least it's even. Eric Martin committed the foul. Let's see whether Maxey had reached in. And he did. That's 3 all this half on Marlon Maxey.
Marlon Maxey, personal foul number 3, and foul number 4.
Maxey's going to sit down.
Substitution for UTEP.
And Roy Howard. There are 3 members on the UTEP squad recruited from Chicago. Howard's from Houston. Van Exel inside Scott. Van Exel from the baseline. 12 points now for Nick Van Exel, and he has exceeded his season's average. Now the Bearcats have performed since he's been in the point guard lineup.
17-1 they are since he's been there.
Stewart gets inside, and the foul before the shot. Van Dyke was fouled. Not a shooting foul. Eric Martin with his second foul. Cincinnati with 5 team fouls. UTEP has 4.
No foul, Jeff.
50-39. Eddie Rivera off balance.
Oh, an alley-oop shot that was. He did a figure 8 with the ball before he released it. You have to do it when you're 5'6".
Nine-point game. Good feed from Jones to Eric Martin. They're beating him on the baseline with that bounce pass time and time again, and the lead is 11 again.
Nice interior passing.
This is not the Royal Ballet we're watching out here.
No, just hard-nosed basketball. Again, it flashed back to the early 70s.
Where defense is the name of the game and always seems to be in big games. Getting Rivera's miss, Cincinnati with the ball again. Nearly 5 minutes elapsed here in the second half. The winner will play Memphis State Sunday in the regional final and the right to go to the Final Four. And we'll have a UTEP foul on Stewart, and that's 3 on Prince Stewart. Timeout. In control of this game at the moment, leading 52-41. They have withstood every challenge by the Miners so far in this game, scoring the first 10 points. Miners came within 3, but Cincinnati has kept them within more than arm's length now.
Yeah, Cincinnati, just the present time, has too much height, too much power, and the Miners need a run. It has to come soon.
On the inbounds pass will be Nick Van Exel, and Herb Jones gets the basket and draws the foul.
Breakdown defensively that time. They didn't switch on to Jones.
He is a favorite here in Kansas City, recruited by the University of Kansas and the best junior college player in the state 2 years ago.
There's the pick right there down low, but no one guarded him. Didn't drop back. Martin should have dropped back and picked them up. Just lack of communication.
Maxey reports back into the game, and Roy Howard, who committed the foul, goes out. So Jones was recruited by Kansas when they were 30-5, and he's a quiet guy, didn't want the limelight, and so he thought UTEP was a better place for him.
Well, he was JC Player of the Year here in Kansas at Butler Community College.
Biggest lead of the game right now. The Bearcats are up by 14, and a blocking foul has been issued against Jeff Scott.
Number 50, Jeff Scott, 3rd personal. Team foul number 6.
3 against Scott.
Jeff Scott steps in there. He put 2 years in at Miami, Ohio, then 1 year in at California, Santa Barbara. Jerry Prim's team out there. Their nickname is the Gauchos.
Yep. Tell you what, this is loaded with transfers, mostly from junior college and a couple from other schools. Maybe one player just out of high school came to Cincinnati. 5.5 minutes going by in the second half, and David Van Dyke is fouled by Eric Martin. That is Martin's 3rd foul. So looking at Cincinnati's lineup, Nelson and Blunt, 2 of their starters have 3, and Martin and Scott off the bench have 3 personal fouls. Martin will...
We're going to get you back to your game in a few moments. The clock is ticking down out in Lexington, where Michigan leads Oklahoma State 65-59. Jim Nance and Billy Packer are courtside.
1:47 remaining in this game. 65-59 Michigan.
Jim, this may be a little bit of a break because Reeves will not have to shoot the fouls. He's going to sit on the bench and be attended to. That brings Alexander, who, as I said earlier, was the 3rd leading free throw shooter in the nation a year ago, and he shoots 76% now.
Ray Jackson is fouled out with 3 points, joining Chris Webber right alongside of him, who was also fouled out. Rob Pelinka comes in.
See, Eddie Sutton has the right to put anybody from that bench on out there to shoot the free throws.
Again, the winner of this game will play Ohio State Sunday in the Southeast Final. And Billy, you said it a moment ago, Alexander, one of the best last year in the nation at the line, and then had that troubling situation at Iowa State in the late going where he missed 2 free throws. 2 big ones here.
76, it's not like he became a bad free throw shooter, but when you go from roughly 90% down to 76, that's quite a fall off. Reeves is now back. He is very groggy on the bench.
4-point game. 1:47 on the game clock.
I'd say Michigan better get the ball in Rose's hands the rest of the way.
Look out.
Oh, Riley, what a play!
No, they call a foul at midcourt.
Oh, but how about the play, Jim? He realized he was being double-teamed on the catch and just batted the ball forward. And look at how happy Steve Fisher is for that young man. That was a sensational play. Smart thinking.
4th against Alexander, and Riley has had his problems tonight from the line.
Now we'll see what happened. Howard doesn't get the ball back to Rose. Now Riley sees what's coming and just taps the ball forward to what would have been a layup for Jimmy King.
Hatcher out, Reeves back in. A smart play by Riley, but an inadvertent smart play by Oklahoma State. 1 of 6 from the line.
Well, how about that foul? When it's going right for you, Jim, everything falls.
Missed his first 5, now he's made 2 straight. points and rebounds, 15 and 10 for Riley.
And that's amazing, 10 rebounds being his season high last year, the #2 rebounder in the Big Ten. It's not like he wasn't capable.
Yeah, he had a 9-block game last year, too. Sutton lays it in, and a timeout called by the Cowboys. 15 for Sutton. 1:27 to go. Cowboys will talk. Remaining, trailing 67-63 with 1:27 to go. Jim Nance, Billy Packer, Curry Kirkpatrick. We heard Brian Reeves had to go out and had a tooth knocked loose, but he's been back in, although he's not in the lineup at this moment.
You notice how Rose stayed away from the ball to conserve his strength for a while. Now he's coming back to accept it. That really helps Michigan.
Sutton bumped into King. His third. UTEP within 8 now of the Bearcats.
Interesting, Sean Sutton there with the foul. I saw a little clip about him. Of course, he still has a lot of friends back in Kentucky. One of his closest, John Pelfrey, and when they talked recently, Pelfrey said, "You're lucky you're still not at Kentucky. You don't shoot enough to play at Kentucky." And he said, "Yeah, well, you're lucky you're not at Oklahoma and A&M because you don't play Oklahoma State. You don't play enough defense to play out here." So, nice little slap back and forth between two good friends.
There's Reeves in for Hatcher. Sutton trying to avoid seeing his college career end the same place it started.
Well,
actually, Billy thought about going to Michigan once it was determined he would no longer stay at Kentucky. Fisher and Frieder both came down trying to recruit him to go play for the Wolverines.
This one,
oh, that should have been.
That was off Reeves' hand, and I think Riley had him hooked. Riley's laughing because he knows that he really committed the foul, got away with it.
Hatcher comes back in for defensive reasons. 1:06 remaining.
But as we said before, not much going wrong for Riley tonight. There's Rose again, coming back to get the ball.
King runs it down for the save. Under a minute to go.
Now, you know what Rose did there, Jim? He saw that Riley was wide open, but he knew that Oklahoma State was going to foul the first man they could, so he, instead of passing to the open man, saying, "Hey, I'd rather be on the line than put Riley on the line," he retained possession. The kid is always thinking. And the normal tendency there would be to throw to the first open man, and he knew what would happen. They'd go right out and foul Riley.
56 seconds from a third game of the year, a rematch with Ohio State. Ohio State beat the Wolverines 68-58 at Michigan, holding the Wolverines to only 13 points in the first half, and then 77-66 Buckeyes at home. So they beat them 2 for 2.
Well, Jim, you know what Jalen Rose told us.
Yeah, that was no idea they would ever meet again.
A month ago.
That was before the Indiana game. Would you rather face Indiana or Ohio State? They said, we think Ohio State's the toughest. They could end up meeting them both again.
They might, and of course, if they were to go all the way and meet Indiana, that'd be a rematch of the '76 NCAA championship in Philadelphia.
Ricky Green led Michigan to the finals. Indiana won it.
Let's go. That's a great shot. That was an NBA three.
That cuts it to 4, and that was Oklahoma State's last timeout. Michigan and Oklahoma State. Fire in Houston's line. His season low, 7 points. He averages 21, and in danger of setting a new low tonight.
Jim, nobody guarding a man out of bounds. Pelinka put in the game for his free throw shooting. So right now, the only weak free throw shooter in the game for Michigan is Riley. Because you've got Pelinka at 87%. You've got Rose at 75. You've got Howard at 67. And King at 72. So it's going to be very difficult for Oklahoma State to foul a poor free throw shooter here.
2 for Rose. Hey, did you know Oklahoma State and Michigan are going to meet again on September the 19th? At Michigan Stadium. College football. Maybe Corey Williams will be facing the Wolverines, this time in pads. One more for Rose. 37 seconds remaining. Remember, the Cowboys don't have any timeouts.
They're on that odd number now. They need a 3 and a 2. Down 5.
Williams hit one a moment ago. And one more. That's down to 2.
Plenty of time here. And Howard gets fouled. And, you know, you can see that Jalen Rose is talking to Riley saying, the ball is to come to me. Rose wanted to be on that foul line again.
How about Corey Williams with back-to-back threes from way out there with players in his face?
Jim, we almost like burying Oklahoma State here, and I think a lot of the fans have, you know, thinking that Michigan already has this one won, but not the case.
Howard will shoot 2. 68% on the season.
Big free throw there. And he can really seal this up now if he can make this one, because Oklahoma State will need the 2 possessions, and they don't have a timeout to stop the clock on the end line.
Steve Fisher says his free throw shooter is our fiercest competitor. And he hits him.
Boy, buried 2 big ones.
Down to 1.
They do not.
No timeouts. Brown almost steals it.
8.7 seconds. No timeouts for Michigan. Michigan wants, no timeouts for Oklahoma State. Michigan took 1.
Unbelievable off-balance 3. 3 of them in the last minute, and it's down to 1.
1-point game in Lexington. I want to get you back and up to date on what's going on in Kansas City. There you see the score, 60-55. Cincinnati wins. Courtside, Dick Stockton and Al McGuire.
Shot missed by Gibson, and no foul is called as Eddie Rivera lost it, and now Scott loses it out of bounds, and the official goes tumbling. It'll be UTEP's ball.
Didn't forget his call. The zebra went down for the count, got up, and he pointed which way.
Hands of the Miners from El Paso. And we'll have a substitution. Alan Jackson will replace Nick Van Exel in the lineup. He's the point guard off the bench for Cincinnati. Under 8 minutes to play, and the lead is 5. A very big possession for UTEP.
Right here. This is a confident builder right here. He's going up.
Van Dyke gets the foul.
Told you 2 minutes in Scott B. Pine City. That's his 5th, right?
He's out of there. He did not start and leaves the game having scored 5. And they're going to bring in Eric Martin to replace him. Martin has 3. And that'll be all for Jeff Scott.
I thought he might have went to Corey Blunt that time, but still it's a little early yet. He wants to save Corey. Corey has 4, right, Dick?
That's correct. One more and he's out of there. So here is David Van Dyke on the free throw line. Miners starting center tonight. 4 for 6 from the stripe.
Throughout the country, he's tied for 5th in block shots. The average is 3.5 a game.
Well, the closest Don Haskins' team has come was 3 at 23-20. And right now they can get back down to 3 if Van Dyke hits the free throw, which he does.
All right, so Cincinnati now leads by 3 in a game that has really closed up, Mike Francesa.
Actually been a 2. It's hard to tell, Billy, but it looks like the toe's on the line to me.
That was a good call by you, Jim, and you brought it up during that timeout. We didn't have the angle on it, but the official that called it was the back official. Goes to Rose. He's going to be on that line to win this thing.
Even if he makes them both, Oklahoma State should have a chance for a tie.
They can tie it, and the way they've been putting them up between Sutton and Williams, Williams can get up that court so quickly.
Billy, with 56 seconds to go in this game, it was Michigan 70 And Oklahoma State 63, a 7-point lead with 56 seconds to go. Cowboys have gotten 2 threes by Corey Williams, 1 by Sutton, and they're within 1. Rose will shoot 2.
Now they can win the game, Jim, with a 3. Do you have the guts, if he makes this, to foul them to make sure you can't lose this game with a 3?
Wouldn't it be something for Sutton to come back here and pull out a game at the end? Sean Sutton. Timeout, Michigan. Cowboys will have a chance to set up with 7 seconds remaining.
We saw Georgia Tech have a chance to solve away a game earlier tonight. They did not put the ball in the hands of their primary dribbler, who would have been Travis Best. In this particular case, neither team has a timeout left, so this is really going to be the last play of the game.
Sean Sutton
gets it up, looking for Williams.
He's driving on Rose, spinning over, tries to force it inside. Stolen away by Howard, and a foul with 1 second left. That was it.
And so it's 74-72, 1 tick on the clock, and it gets you back to your game out in Kansas City, Cincinnati, UTEP. Cincinnati leading 62-57. Here's Dick and Al one more time.
Van Dyke up at the top. UTEP trailing by 5. They have come within 3 twice in this game. Never led. 5:45 remaining, and a reach-in foul against Terrence Gibson. And UTEP shooting 2, more than 10 fouls already committed by Cincinnati.
10 fouls committed by both teams. What's happening here for the audience that just joined us is that it's gone to a UTEP game. It's a half-court now defensive game. What Cincinnati wants is a 94-feet defensive game with a lot of traps, but they just, UTEP is taking the legs out from them in the second half. They're not that strong anymore, and their legs aren't that alive.
Johnny Smooth, Johnny Melvin from Chicago, hits the free throw.
He had 18 points against Kansas in that giant upset last week.
He was the man who came forward when they opened up to the 4 corners to beat the top-seeded Jayhawks. And again, it's a 3-point game.
With a ton left, 5:45. UTEP does not gamble on defense. They just play you straight up. They don't try to steal the ball. They just play you straight up, wear you down.
And that's why Bobby Knight respects Don Haskins as much as he does. And a steal batted away by Johnny Melvin. So once again, UTEP with a chance. Michigan defeated Oklahoma State, so a couple of Big Ten teams will battle it out in the Southeast Regional Finals on Sunday in Lexington.
Congratulations, Steve Fisher. You're my straw man in the Wizard of Oz.
Michigan and Ohio State.
And they won with Weber on the bench. That was a surprise.
By the way, Michigan lost both games to Ohio State in the regular season. Rivera working against Jackson.
Inside position should be good.
Basket, no basket, said the official, and an offensive foul called against Johnny Melvin. That is his 4th foul.
They're trying to say he released the ball before he made contact. Let's see. Nope, good call. See, if he releases the ball before he makes contact, the basket be good.
And
hairline call, but a good one.
Marlon Maxey. Now, Melvin goes to the bench. Maxey got called for the foul. He stays in the game. 62-59 with 4:36 remaining.
Want to pump it down low.
Martin has it rejected. Good block inside by Van Dyke.
Van Dyke, they nickname him the SWAT man.
And here in Kansas City, UTEP is giving Cincinnati fits. After the Bearcats were up by 14, the lead has been cut to 3. Cincinnati in white has the ball. UTEP has never led, but they're pesky defensively. Herb Jones, the leading scorer, goes up and is fouled and will go to the line. How's this game gone from the beginning when the Bearcats dominated to now where UTEP has come back out?
One of the big things that happened to beat the Bearcats, you must let them get out on you fast. They got out fast with a 14-2 lead. With 17 minutes to go in the first half, Don Haskins called the timeout, not waiting for the commercial timeout, and I thought that was the key to the game. Since then, the game has been kind of an ugly game, which Don Haskins likes to see. They're right in there. They're right in the money. I think Cincinnati has better material, but don't count the Miners out. They're tough in this type of a situation. They'll drive you crazy with those little guards.
Jones missed the first free throw. Johnny Melvin replaced Van Dyke, who goes out with 4 fouls. And that miss by Jones was the first miss at the free throw line. Nick Van Axel returns to the backcourt for Cincinnati. You can wait. 4:12 to go, 1 out of 2 for Jones, and a 4-point game. Here's that pressure that worked for the Bearcats early on.
Well, no, it's not really. It's really choking now. They're going to trap after half court. Man should come up right now. Here he comes. He didn't kill his dribble. He kept it alive. There's 3 underneath. Should be a layup.
Maxey with a short jumper. And the rebound is Cincinnati. They've got 3-on-1 now against Rivera, and Jones lays it in. Herb Jones now with 24.
That was a 4-point turnaround by missing that layup down the end.
Every time UTEP has made a run at the Bearcats, Cincinnati has had an answer. A withering, trapping defense. Broken there as Van Dyke cuts the lead now to 4 with less than 3.5 to go.
Bearcats' weakness is underneath the baseline. Anytime they can get the ball through their trap to anyone on the baseline, it's usually a dunk and 2 points.
Van Dyke with 18 tops the Miners in orange. They go low now to Buford, and a great play inside to Eric Martin.
That basket should be good.
It is good.
Foul.
And that'll be the 5th foul on David Van Dyke. He's out of the game.
And here's the kick down low. Eric Martin underneath. He originally started his college career at Texas Christian.
So the senior David Van Dyke has fouled out after scoring 18 points. He had 4 rebounds, and he'll be a big loss for the Miners as they try to catch up.
Well, you know, Dick, he plays a one-man zone and makes you alter your shot so many times as you get into the paint.
Eric Martin will try to complete the 3-point conversion here. And Roy Howard, who came into the game for Van Dyke, gets the rebound. 3 minutes remaining. The lead is 6 for Cincinnati. Here's a 3-point attempt by Johnny Melvin. Into the hands of Terrence Gibson. UTEP has had their opportunities to come back and tie the game.
They'll spread it out now, try to eat up some clock. That was a giant rebound by Gibson that time in secondary rebound area. Ball goes out further when you shoot from 3-point land.
Cincinnati, the 4th seed, trying to advance to the regional final against Memphis State, a team they beat 3 times in the regular season. They're both from the Great Midwest Conference. And it is still Cincinnati's ball. Timeout here in Final 4. Indiana against UCLA and Kentucky against Duke. 2 of those teams will advance to the Final 4 in Minneapolis. Those are the tip-off times. Here, the timeout story. Both teams have committed over 10 fouls, and UTEP gets the possession arrow. Terrence Gibson will inbound for the Bearcats. Herb Jones with an air ball, and Rivera cradles it, and UTEP's still alive.
They did not have a fresh clock that time. That's why he had to shoot. It was about 10 seconds left.
And a foul before the shot. That'll be the 2nd on Gibson. Bob Huggins in his 3rd year, just 37 years old. He's a screamer on the sidelines. What do you call him?
He's a keeper. He
Captain
works hard.
Fierce?
Excuse me?
Captain Fierce?
Captain Fierce. He puts out.
Alan Jackson has replaced Terrence Gibson, and on the line is Eddie Rivera, just 5'8" from the Bronx, New York. First time at the line for Rivera, who's a good free throw shooter at 71%. UTEP was down several times by 3. The last time was at 62-59, but on a key play, a basket was nullified by an offensive foul. And since then, Cincinnati has opened up a bit. And a timeout called by Don Haskins of UTEP. One timeout leading by 4 with 2:12 remaining. The starting center, David Van Dyke, has already fouled out. Those are the other people in foul trouble. UTEP has one timeout remaining, and they get the ball on a tie-up. It's a big defensive stop situation for UTEP, Al.
Right here, they'll let Cincinnati take as much off the clock as they want. They just don't want to give them a chippy layup or a putback. Don Haskins' last timeout says you must box out off a shot. They'll take it down another 7-8 seconds.
Jackson looks in. Good play, and it's tipped away with 10 seconds remaining. Bob Huggins Bearcats trying to make it 9 in a row and advance to the regional finals. This team won 2 national titles in the early 60s. Martin almost got messed up, and a loose ball, and a tie-up will go to UTEP. They have the possession arrow, so a good defensive stop there.
Ooh, that's a big possession arrow of all possession arrows. Here's the double team in the corner. They haven't shown that often. It's got to be a hot potato down there. There's the tie-up.
Corey Blunt has come into the game replacing Nick Van Exel with 1:31 to play. 4-point lead.
Corey Blunt has 4 personal fouls.
They finally get it into Marlon Maxey. Got to have it in the ball handlers.
They got it there now. Everything's safe. 4-point spread.
Johnny Melvin. And here's a 3-point attempt by Prince Stewart. Tipped away. And is saved by Cincinnati nicely. So UTEP had another opportunity to go by the boards. And Herb Jones has a block.
Nice
What a great block by Roy Howard.
Should have backed it up. Give UTEP an excellent chance here.
UTEP has blocked 9 shots tonight. And what a play by Johnny Smooth Melvin to cut the lead to 2. This is the closest UTEP has come since early in the game.
There's still time for a shot. There's about a 5-6 point spread. There's a foul. 1 timeout left for Texas of El Paso. And here's a block down the other end. Watch come over and catch it. Perfect block. No foul.
Timeout, Cincinnati. Down to the wire again here.
Well, I think what's going to happen here, they'll only trap in the corners. UTEP will let Cincinnati bring the ball down. It's a 7-point spread from the big clock to the small clock. The small clock is a shot clock. They just want to make sure they get the rebound. They got 1 timeout left. So if they get the rebound, they'll call timeout and then go for all the marbles. That's if Cincinnati doesn't score.
Cincinnati scored the first 10 points of the game, the closest they've been since 2-0. Eric Martin goes in, and a foul is called against Roy Howard.
All right, you got 20 seconds left.
All right, we're going to thank some people tonight. An exciting Midwest Regional here in Kansas City. First of all, the coordinating producer of NCAA basketball on CBS is Bob Dekas. Tonight's game was produced by Robert D. Stenner and directed by Larry Cavallina. The Road to the Final Four was produced by David Winter and Eric Mann and directed by Duke Struck and Bob Mattina. The senior producer of CBS Sports is Ed Gorin, and the executive producer of CBS Sports is Ted Shaker. A big day and night for Ted Shaker. He and his wife Cheryl gave birth to a baby boy, and all our congratulations to the Shaker family.
I hear they have a problem picking a name for him. They should call him either Pepper or Salt.
We'll let them decide. Let Cheryl and Ted make that determination.
That was a big one. Now he makes this one 2 possessions, which would put El Paso in a tough position.
69-65. Cards in the lineup for UTEP now, Al.
That's not to score as much as it is to put pressure on after they score.
They got some 3-point shooters, but they don't need it just yet. They do need 2 possessions. Eddie Rivera feeds inside to Howard, and a foul called against the Bearcats. And that gives UTEP a life with just under 10 seconds remaining.
Now he gets 2 shots because it's past the 10th foul. Now all he has to do truly is just make one of these. And then it gives UTEP a chance in 1 possession to put it into OT.
Nick Van Exel replaces Eric Martin in the lineup, and Marlon Maxey is on the line shooting. He is 6 for 7 from the free throw line.
And there's 9 seconds left with some change, 9.4.
And they bring out that third guard, Vice, and Johnny Melvin, number 32, replaces him. But they may have to foul if they don't make an early steal.
Right away. But,
in any event.
Yeah, but first of all, we'll have to see if he can make both foul shots. They're in good shape. Even if he just makes one, they're still in the ball game.
And you can't worry about who you foul because you're going to have to foul whoever has the ball, so you don't look up at the stat book.
Don't make any difference anymore. Whoever touches the ball, you hit him. And if he makes this one, it's very important because if the guy goes down with the foul shots and only makes one, you can tie the game with a 3-point score.
Maxey makes them both, and it's a 2-point game.
Here's the pressure. Maxey's back playing a one-man zone underneath. The other 4 men are being played man-to-man. Should foul right away.
They don't.
They should foul right away. You got to foul. You got to foul. You got to foul. He's fouling intentionally.
They do not get to foul the Bearcats.
Intentionally, you got to foul.
The game is going to end.
Intentionally.
The play was to foul. They never got a chance to.
They were trying to pick up one man. You foul anybody in that situation. The clock is your enemy, not the Bearcats.
Cincinnati wins 9 in a row. They're now 28-4, and now will play Memphis State for the 4th time on Sunday. They have beaten them the first 3.